Hello and welcome to the February 2025 Tableau Public Tug. I hope everyone had a happy Valentine's Day. Our house is in any day mode now for our next grandbaby, so it's been a special month of anticipation for me. We're excited to have three amazing Viz of the Day authors joining us today. Tableau Visionary Prasann Prem will present his Viz of the Day, The Color of Sleep. Tableau Social Ambassador Givler will show us his first Viz of the Day, 10 ways to make a quadruple axis chart. And Tableau Public featured author Lilla Rasztik will be our community spotlight author, sharing her story on using Tableau Public to earn 4 Viz of the Days. Today, our hosts are Priyanka Dubal, Preethi Lodha, and myself, Eric Howard. We're all proud members of the Tableau Ambassador Class of 2024. Preethi Lodha is joining us today from Boston, Massachusetts. Preethi is a Tableau Public Ambassador and Data Analytics and Insights Manager in higher education who's passionate about turning complex data into eye-catching visualizations with Tableau. When she's not helping us here on the Tableau Public Tug, she is co-leading the Data FamCon project, the Boston Tug, or serving on the advisory board for Data Plus Women Northeast Tug. Preethi, I'm sure I've done a few more things this past year that I left out. So what did I leave out?
Thank you for the shout out, Eric. The couple of things that stand out is the Data Plus Women BizHer challenge that we did from New England. It was a great opportunity to viz women specific data sets and to see all these visualizations come through. A different thing, I've been an Iron Viz participant, but this cycle I went the dark side and I was the judge. So I got to experience the entire judging process and to see all the amazing work come through. I learned a lot from the process of what clicks and what are the different things everybody is using out there. So that was great fun. And as we were talking shortly before, I'm excited for the Tableau conference. I am one of the speakers. I'm going solo this time, so any tips for solo speakers is more than welcome. Put them in chat. But I think next few months of mine are going to be encompassed with building that content. So that is a few things that I've been doing, and I look forward to doing.
Pretty impressive. Well, thank you for joining us today, Preethi. Priyanka is joining us today from Toronto, Canada. Priyanka is a Tableau Public Ambassador. She's an active member of the Tableau community since 2018. For her, Tableau Public is a blank canvas where she can create and share beautiful visualizations. Guided by the motto, "Viz what you love," she enjoys exploring topics like movies, music, and sports through her visualizations. Priyanka, it's February. What love are you visiting about this month?
Thank you, Eric, for that introduction. I'm actually watching a lot of MasterChef lately. So something about the food is what I'm working on. Michelin star restaurants. Let's see if that works out. But yeah, that's where I'm right now.
Nice. Well, anxious to see it when you have it ready for your profile. So here's our agenda today. We'll start off with Lilla in the community spotlight. In between Ray and Prasann, we'll have a quick swag drawing, so stick around. Okay, let's welcome Lilla Rasztik to our community spotlight. She's coming to us today from Amsterdam, where she enjoys creating vizzes that are inspired from her life in that beautiful old city. I visited Amsterdam in 2018, and I can see why she is so inspired. Just take a look at her Tableau Public profile. It is just chock full of viz after viz that is just absolutely beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us today, Lilla. Let me
Thank you for
stop
having
here.
me.
And you have such a variety of beautiful vizzes on your Tableau Public profile. What inspires your Tableau visualizations?
Well, I am not using Tableau on a daily basis for my work. So I started with Tableau as a passion or like a personal hobby of mine. And maybe because of that, I am also using it as a visual journal for all my major life milestones and for things which I am really interested in. So if you look at my profile, you probably see movies, series, which I recently watched, or I don't know, like life events about my recent vacation or other travel experience, or I create also different type of tracker related visualizations. Every year something new comes up. So yeah, it's something always happening in my life, and I am trying to use Tableau Public to basically make memories about these events.
It's a nice way to create memories. As a Tableau hobbyist, what led you to use Tableau?
I started actually as a New Year resolution in 2021. That was the time of the pandemic, and I was looking for a new hobby which I could also do indoors. And since I never had to work with Tableau, but I've seen how the industry is shifting, and it was always a hot topic. So I thought it's gonna be the perfect time for me just to learn something new. And yeah, I started with the first Makeover Monday because, of course, I was doing a bit of research on Reddit, what people are recommending, how to start. Makeover Monday came up, and I love the topic because it was the great bicycle boom of 2020. And I also started to bike in 2020, so I thought it's like match made in heaven.
Well, nice. That was one of the things I loved about Amsterdam was all the bicycles. AI is all the craze today. Have you used AI to help create any vizzes?
Honestly, I use it almost every time for my recent visits. The latest viz I did was about pancake toppings, and there I used Dolly to create the background image. Then I had another visualization before that was about the Lord of the Rings. There I used also AI to generate the data set itself because I didn't find anything which was readily available with the data I was looking for. And I think even the one before, the Shogun related, which is a TV series, I also used AI because the series gave already a lot of information, but I am really interested in Japan and I would like to travel there in the next couple of years. So I was looking for similarities and also some information how to enrich my story on the visualization, and I used AI to give me some insight.
Oh, so you've used it for graphics, data, and story. That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yes.
You have a lot of highly favorited vizzes, but which of your vizzes was your favorite to create?
Well, my favorite, I think, is the one which got me the first viz of the day, and that was for a friend of mine. It was the beginning of a new life. I believe that's the title of it. But why I created it, because that friend of mine, she gave birth to her son in that year. And well, yeah, I just created it as a gift. I did it, yeah, without, like without any purpose in the community at that time or nothing. So it was very special to my heart.
Okay. Well, as a data hobbyist, how has Tableau impacted your professional life?
It has a big effect for two reasons, I believe. One is very obvious, and that is knowing more about a tool or a technology. So every time when I am creating a visualization, I am also learning something new about Tableau. And that's something which I can directly translate to my professional growth. But the other one, which for me is not just professionally, but also personally, I would say it's a huge edit or a huge bonus, is being able to participate in community events, being invited to interviews such as this one, and connecting with other people, because I usually have a little bit of stage fright, and I always wanted to tackle it, but never had the opportunity to do so. So now this is also, yes, it's also something which I really appreciate.
All right, cool. That sounds great. What's your favorite Tableau blog and training resource?
I have a bunch, and if someone is familiar with my tutorials for visualizations whiz of the day, they probably have seen it, that I am looking up for a lot of Tableau Public authors. One of them is the Flurlich twins, for example, and also Andy Kriebel. Like, they are, I guess, for many of us, go-to resource or sources in the space. But also I really like the blogs of Brian Moore, Lindsay Betzendahl, and CJ Mays. And I would like to give a special shout out to Netherlands authors, two Netherlands authors, or like people at least who live in the Netherlands as well, even though they are not Dutch. But that's Jessica and Tristan from La Dataviz, because they are creating amazing database generators, which they allow us to use on Tableau Public as well. And I use their generators for the past 3-4 times, and they are really a game changer, helping people to, in my opinion, they are helping people to create the visualizations without needing to do the heavy math behind. So it's amazing.
Okay, well, I'll definitely have to check out their site. So who has helped you the most on your Tableau journey?
I have an ex-colleague I would like to mention. His name is András Johancsik. At the time when I joined the company where I am working at for 7 years now, he was the Tableau expert. So when I started working with Tableau, I naturally thought of him first. He was my go-to person, basically. And he was always very nice, always helping me, looking into my calculations, giving me feedback on visualizations. So I really appreciate all the time he spent with me working on Tableau. And now, actually, like, he's working at another company, but still, because of Tableau, we were able to stay in touch after many years.
Oh, that's great. The Tableau community is great. I know I've been helped by so many people over the years, and I'm sure everyone on the call today feels the same. Well, thank you for joining us and sharing your Tableau story, Lilla.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Let me go back to this one. So next up, we have Ray Givler and Priyanka with Ray's quadruple axis chart.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric, for that wonderful interview. Lilla, I absolutely love your visits. I should have told you that before. Okay, so getting to Ray. Super excited to have you here, Ray. I'll give a quick introduction for the people over here. So Ray is a current social Tableau ambassador, a provider, analytics consultant, and a Tableau developer for Highmark Health. He has been using Tableau since 2016. All his workbook on Tableau Public is downloadable, so that's great. You can go and check those workbooks. And he visits about a lot of different kind of charts. So you'll see some radial charts and dynamic hierarchical tables. One of which we'll see today is also in very interesting design. He loves to showcase different ideas. And as a social ambassador, he's grateful for the opportunity to influence and shape thoughts on data visualization via his LinkedIn following. I am super excited to have you here, Ray. I'm interested to look into your whole process of the Viz. So please take it away.
Sure. Like, I don't know how much you want to make it interactive, Priyanka, with you asking me questions, or if you just want me kind of to run down through. I'm ready to just talk till you guys tell me stop.
Yeah.
However you want it. And feel free. I know you guys are watching the chat. For many people can ask questions as I go. And please give me like a 2-minute warning with some before we have whatever, another 5 minutes at the end. I don't want to eat into Prasann's time at all. All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome. So before I share, I'm going to give a fun fact about myself. If you remember the Data Plus Movies Challenge, I was lucky enough to be have one of my vises selected by the IMD people as one they liked, and it's about the Breakfast Club. So I'm going to put that in here. So I have probably the unique distinction of being the only one to have a viz in that, and also have a credit as a creator on IMDb because I, for a brief period of time, tried to be a screenwriter. So there's a movie out there that I wrote, a horror movie. Do not buy it. It is bad. The lead actress had to move 2/3 of the way through shooting. So the film bears very little resemblance to the story I wrote. But that's a fun fact. So why don't we just jump into hey there, all awesome horror movie. Still don't get it. Don't. You've been warned, everybody. Let me go ahead and try to share my screen here, and I'm going to be jumping back and forth between some notes in Word and the dashboard itself online and desktop, public desktop. So here is the dashboard I'm talking about, 10 ways to make quadruple axis charts. So the first question is like, what even do I mean by that? It is not an established term. It is what I am calling these charts. And basically what I'm talking about is you have to start with a dual axis chart. So if we come over here to desktop and look at this first example, if you're not familiar with dual axis, you can have two measures which may or may not have similar scales fused together via dual axis right here. I don't want to unconnect them. And then in some cases, to create certain visual effects, you'll actually want the same measure in both. So in this case, one is acting as a line and another as an area chart, and some people like the looks of that. So what I'm talking about when I say dual axis is that what I have here, and it's indicated in the title of each of these panels, is there's actually two real axes, which the title will show you in yellow. So the area and the line are the real axes. And then I'm calling the other ones faux or false axes, this dot and a circle. And they are actually co-opted symbols in the text labels of the marks. So it's a way to kind of, if you're doing the same measures anyway, get more out of your vises. So before I go any further on that, let's talk about the navigation in this dashboard. I put some effort into that. You have this first page, and I used some AI in this, which I will get to in a moment. But the idea here is this is supposed to look like a line chart and then have the 10 different screens that you can go to. So each one of the circles here is a navigation button. So if I alt click on desktop, you can go there. I can get back to home up here. So there's like 2 ways to navigate. So you can get to any of those here. Each one has a little label about what it is. We have navigation buttons at the top. This series of 4, and thanks for asking about this in the practice session, Eric. This is duplicated on each tab in exactly the same position, so that in theory, you know, you can just click across these and navigate through everything. I got some feedback that there's supposed to be a playful aspect of this design-wise, where this is supposed to look like crayon, right, on construction paper. And I thought these looked like big buttons that would be on a kid's toy. And I was told by somebody they look too professional, like they don't look like the rest of it. I don't know. I kept it anyway. And I got these from, you can Google it, the Flurlage Twins PowerPoint button template. So I took those and added some symbols to them and used them here. And if you're going to go through this, anything I say here is going to be in this help behind the viz. So every one of the tabs here has help. And the close button, I actually have 2 buttons here, and you don't need them. One's in the same positions as the other, kind of minor point, but there's help on every page. And I explain how everything works within that. And lastly, I use the US safety something format in this caution at the bottom. So this is somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but somewhat serious. Caution, a lot of these things I'm going to talk about are probably like overdone, but hopefully it'll give you ideas. You probably don't want to use as many marks in as many different ways at once. It may like overload your users, but there may be some nuggets in here. At least I hope so. So that was a bit of talking. Are there any questions in the chat or anything yet?
No, Ray, I think we are good.
All right. Cool. So let's keep going. So AI, I did use some AI assistants, and I'm going to paste these in the chat too. I'm a big chatter. So let's come over to here. These are my 3 go-tos. What I like about the second one, Ideogram.ai, is that it's really good for text within an image. So I actually had another image, like my original design. Let's go back over to my notes here. My original design, I had 4 ideas, and I have to even get back to what the impetus or the originating idea was for this. I'm going to talk in a minute. So anyway, I had 4, I had 6, and I stopped at 10. I'm like, all right, I got to stop somewhere. But the ideas were just flowing and flowing and flowing. And this was my original splash screen. It was this guy. I was kind of on a Muppets theme, and the Tableau sweatshirt came out well. And if you're not from the US, one of these off-road vehicles is called a quad, and I was saying quad axis chart, so I thought it was kind of cool, but someone else told me not so cool. So, that's an idea I discarded. So let's get into the first example, and I do have an exact inspiration for it, which is listed in the chart. And this came from Jennifer Dahl's Tiny Tableau tip on this date. And I'm going to give you the links to both of these as well. She has a really cool Tableau art gallery. So if you have some Tableau dashboards that are purely visual, you can write to her and maybe she'll include your stuff there. So let's look in detail. In her example, I have some notes. I credit her here. She did a highlighter with a dual axis with a colored circle on one axis and a line on the other. All right. And what I was thinking when I saw that, and I had never thought this before, was, I could do that circle not as a dual axis. I could put like a symbol in there, like a solid circle, and then I would have an extra axis. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, that actually gives me an extra mark. That's pretty cool. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. If I do that on both axes, then I get 2 extra marks. And that was kind of the impetus for the quadruple axis. So again, like I said earlier, it's 2 real axes and 2 faux axes using labels. So let's just look at this one first. The rest of the details aren't that important from the help here. Let's look at the sheet itself. So what we have is an area chart and a line chart. And on this area chart, we have this dot sales window. So dot sales window is a window function, and it ingests this parameter over here. So any of these things I can highlight. Let's just show you max. I can get the min value. And this is what works similar to Jennifer's example. I can do all of them if I wanted. So anyway, this is kind of cool. You can put any function in here you want if you're willing to work out the calc. So let's leave it at max. Let's come back over and look at the calc. And what the calc does, depending on the parameter, it can do any of these things, comparing the current value to the rest of the window. And if it applies, just show a circle, right? So we're either getting a circle or nothing. And this is a key point to how this works. So a null is going to present nothing on the label. The symbol will show up if applicable. And then we just have in here, that is that calculation, and it is blue. And that's why the dot is blue there. So this is kind of a good use case for these. You don't You probably don't want to clutter every mark with, every mark with a third and fourth mark. It's going to overwhelm, like I said again, but conditional and ones that don't always apply, maybe there's useful use cases. So that was the area. Then on the line, and again, this is dual axis because some people really like this look of the line kind of complementing the area. We have this a not profitable circle, right? And that's just, we don't have to look at the calc. It's similar to the other one. If profitable applies, then I'm creating a circle, otherwise a null. We look at the label here. It's just black. It's just not profitable circle. And that's returning literally these circles, right? And those are the ones that were not profitable. Let's go out of the sheet and go back to the main view. So that's kind of the inspiration and the first example. So where I went from there is just one evolution. Let's take away that area chart, right? And see if we can do something else. So now you'll see here we have, in addition to the not profitable circle, right? And we still have the same highlighter. Like if I went back to all or min or max, that's still working. But I added this deep discount. So let's look at the sheet here. This is a variation of the same thing. And here, deep discount, remember this was formerly our area chart. Now that's been traded out for the circle. And this circle is conditional. And deep discount is just something that checks if the average discount across all the orders was greater than 25%. Then I'm arbitrarily calling it deep. We can see over here in the color that's either blank. And I have a link to the Fleur-Lich Twins use of blank items on a dashboard in the help. You can check that out. But anyway, this is a circle, right? If we look at, whoops, sorry, wrong one. Look at shape, circle, coloring it red or not at all. So it shows up conditionally here and here. And otherwise, wait a minute, let me just show you. The dot sales is still on the same mark, which is this same one. If we go to the line, that's where we have that not profitable again. It's the same thing as the prior chart. Black circle is returned there. So here we're getting one graph, 3 mark types. May or may not be useful. So if we go back to here, I have a little note at the bottom. Try changing granularity here on our date range. This is default Tableau functionality. It gets very busy, but just to show you that this does work dynamically if you want to try that. So from there, let's look at some other examples. What I want to say here. Okay. Yeah, lots going on. I'm just going to talk briefly about the next several. This one just shows you could use 4 variants of the same shape. I do 4 different triangles. We don't have time to talk about it. I'm going to skip it. The next one, we see that you can vary shape. So we have these 4 different volume quartiles that I'm showing here based on a calculation. The other neat thing I've never seen anyone do, but may not be original, is my donut charts are also acting as heat maps here. So more sales is darker greenish. So that's all I'm going to say about that one. You guys can check it out for more. This just shows you that you can create size and color variations as I have here based on this same approach for these marks, but you have to make a calc for each one of these, right? And you would have to load up all those calcs kind of side by side on your label. And then if they apply, they show up. Otherwise, they're null, and it all just kind of works out. So I have, these 3 different color circles and the top 3 ordered by volume there. Here's an interesting use case related to this where I am doing border highlighting. So you can't highlight borders by default in Tableau, but if you hack it like this, you can do it and it could be useful. So what's going on here is it's a dual axis of 2 bars, okay? the first bar is our heat map of profit, where it's kind of going from this blue to brown, which I have in this title to help you understand what's going on. Then a symbol where I have an LOD calc that shows you the most profitable ship mode, and the legend to that is back on the main dashboard. Kind of just ignore that for now. Although it does have the an explanation for what that is. Like here's standard ship mode, and this means second class and first class. I have something for that. But the big thing is this deep discount border, right? So what really that is the second bar, right? This value deep discount highlight, that is only going to return a value if we're in the deep discount situation, 25% or more. And what it does is the first bar is a size 1.0, and just you would have to figure out your own value for your own graph. This deep discount high, let's look it up. Seeing is believing. Deep discount highlight. This returns 0.97, slightly smaller, right, than the 1.0. And then the color, the border is red for that, and then it's no opacity otherwise. So that's what gives us that nice red border there. And the other thing on this label, we just have a standard label, no symbol, but this is that 44.9% or 50.9%. So that's what's on label on that axis. And again, if we go to this one, this is where we're getting that ship mode. Whoa, look at that. It's a big text size to get that symbol the way I wanted it there. So that's another way you could do the quad axis. The next one, bar hashing. This is kind of cool. So we're here going to go back to a blast from the past. So think about when you had print, right? Print before color printing. So whenever that was, I don't know, the 50s or earlier. And how would you show the difference, or how would you highlight something, right? You would have categories, you didn't have color. So what we can do here is set up hashing with different characters. You can see I'm still using a similar highlight parameter here, the same parameter, right? Max, what's the max profit ratio by subcategory? Here it is on labels. I actually have two versions of this chart. One is a triple axis here on the left. This one on the right is quadruple because the star is the difference, right? And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But anyway, the point is, oh, look at that. That's not supposed to be so long there. I'll fix that. Last minute editing of this last night. I don't like that title being so long up there. But anyway, let's look at some different hashes. You can select a hash in this just to show you what's possible. So that's reversing with a back hash. And like here's dots. And then what if we changed it to all of them? You could get like a look at what that would look like. So the point is here, you could use some kind of hashing as a highlighter without adding the eyesore of yet one more color to your dashboard. And so either use it categorically or as a highlighter like I'm doing here. So let's see how it actually works. So let's go into this one. And we have a bar and a Gantt bar. Remind me to talk about the Gantt bar if I forget. But main bar, right? We're going to look whether it hash profit ratio window, right? So that is what is on our label. And look at this. There it is. It's big. I had to make sure it covered the whole bar. It's pink. Why is it pink? It's pink so that it looks like it's part of the background here, right? Or pink, purple, something you decide. So hash profit, let's look at that. Hash profit. This is not real complicated. If you, if it met any conditions, do the hashing display. I should have showed you the hashing display. That's the real meat and potatoes of it. Here we go. Edit. So here, if they selected any of these, I'm just returning a string long enough to cover the longest possible bar. So there's a little fooling around, what would work and what would cover all that. And that's how that hashing works. I kind of really like this one, although I have not used it at work yet. but it has potential. Now, I am going to talk about this Gantt bar for a second. The term escaped me for a moment. I stole this, and I credit Lindsay Betzendahl. I couldn't remember her last name for a second on this. Oh gosh, sorry guys, I'm flipping around here. Let's get back to it. So she showed a Gantt bar at the end of the chart. Mine's very similar, except it's at the beginning of the chart, and she's kind of a status color. So if you do it with just like a fixed size, you just get this thinnest, like 1 pixel of color, and then we got the label beside it. And it's kind of a complicated calculation to create, or not just one calculation, to get this spacing here, right? Where I have an indicator of whether it met the sales goal, and then I have some space, and then this could either be 1 or 2 digits, or positive or negative. There's quite a bit going on, so let's look at that. So this is throwing together multiple things on a label: the symbol for met sales goal, a spacer, and then a separate calculation to show whether it's positive or negative to get that green or red coloration there. So let me see what else I got here. Just real quick, I am going to a note which I haven't said yet. Anything I'm doing here could be recreated as a map layer. And Andy Kriebel happens to be having a free seminar in a few days about that topic. The link to it is there. So if I go to these L bars, so Sarah Pallett made these L bars, and I thought they were really fascinating. And she put it out right at the same time I was working on this. And then I thought, well, can I, take that and, add something else to it? So that's what's going on here. And what we have is legend at the top. The sales is the L bar coming up and over, and the order volume is the circle. So my concept was here is like, these are how many orders we have, the size of this circle, and out of them spring our sales. And then we have the label for that sales is here, this 167.4. If that met the sales goal, as it does in some cases, we have this check mark. Let's go to the sheet and see the details. So I'm saying line, label, right? So this is where we have the sales value as well as just check mark if it applies. Null produces nothing. And then on the circle, right? We have that order count on size. That's what's doing that. And then on our label here for our 4th mark, we have whether the profit ratio was positive or negative, which gives us the green or the red. Those two are lumped together. Either one or the other will show up. A spacer here. And then our subcategory and that order count, all kind of in one line. It all comes together nicely there. You will have to fool around with what fonts you think work best. In some cases, Tableau Book. In general, Tableau Book works very well. In some cases, depending on what you're trying to do, you may want a non-proportional, fixed font. So in this case over here, I'm using a fixed size font so that this asterisk and the spacing and all this stuff is the same. And there also is some nuance in whether you want to use emojis or symbols, or like kind of a plain text, part of a normal character set as a symbol. If you don't know in Windows, let's see if it'll show up here. I'm sharing the desktop. Windows period.
Hey, Ray, sorry,
Yes.
just give me a heads up, 5 more minutes.
5 minutes. All right.
Yeah,
I'm going to wrap up.
up.
Right. So here, if you go hit Windows period when you're in Windows and hit symbol, like this is where I got most of the stuff. So you don't have to like look this up online. You can get it right there. So thanks for the warning. Let me see what else I want to say here. Wow. All right. I'll do the best I can here. So this is a cool one, just to be aware that if two trends aren't enough, why not try for 3? So my real trends on this, right, are made with the bars and the lines. And then I'm going a step further. If we go into this graph, and if I go, look at these edit reference line, my reference line is 2 dots. I'm returning a dot for profit of the East zone, profit of the West region, I should say, and I'm coloring them independent in the format of those. So you could create as many trends as you want by doing a symbol in a reference line too. So if I go to the help on this one, look at this. I have, it just kind of does double duty. These horizontal lines are the same as the line chart, but it's just showing you that you could load up as many trends as you want. Probably don't want to do, but that is possible. And maybe show you one more thing. Let's close that. And what's cool here is like this right axis is all counts and it's dynamic. So I can select these. Each one of these are just basic counts. So it shares the same type of axis. That was kind of fun having that in there. Last one, map trellis. I got this from the guy we were talking about earlier, Tori Levinson. And he wrote to me to tell me I spelled his last name wrong. So I fixed that. But like this just shows that you can put map items on a grid and not actually make it as a map if you take out the lat and long. And then this was to show the furthest possible extent you may go with this. You would never actually do this, but if you could understand a 3x3 grid of indicators, like you could even throw that on here. So that's another thought. And lastly, just remember what these are. They're dual axis charts with characters on the labels that act as faux marks. The rendering order important. So check this out at the end if you want details, but rendering top to bottom, and what is shown, it's the left pill mark, right pill mark, left pill text, right pill text. As I said earlier, limit the functionality. Probably good just to show exceptions so you don't overwhelm people. Maybe parameterize them. They work well for where data's the faux mark is a one-to-one attribute of the level of detail. So in other words, a mark either has this symbol or it doesn't. You don't want to get a duplicate situation. Formatting will take some tinkering. Remember, server always renders slightly different. And I think I'll just leave it at that. The rest are just more and more details. So are there any questions in the chat? I know that was like drinking from a fire hose there.
Yeah, I think people are catching up with all of these amazing tricks. And I think what I would take away from this is that how parameters can accomplish so much. You have used parameters for min and max to change the axis to whatnot, to those lines, the hashing part. That was so interesting. That was kind of fun too, to be honest. I was thinking of using that for a work thing maybe.
Cool. Sounds good.
And yeah, and I think a lot of other people agree on the hashing, because I see Anne also says the same about hashing and highlighting the bars, which is also pretty interesting. Can be used for a work thing. So,
awesome. Yeah, I can see the chat now. So, yeah, Eric, I don't know that any of it cannot be done with map layers. I think you could do any of this. I've only done a couple like regular graphs with map layers. I've done some maps with a lot of layers. It can get a little confusing with maps because you need to calculate the points, and like basically X and Y are reversed with lat and long. So you got to think, but I guess if you do a lot of them though, it becomes second nature. So I'd encourage people to, look at the examples that are out there on YouTube and or attend Andy's thing. It's free and you can learn more about that. Any other final thoughts, questions?
I think you're definitely pushing the envelope with Tableau there.
It was fun. Yeah. Oh, I had a blast doing it. I basically did it instead of Iron Viz because I got the ideas and started. Make 0.00. Thank you, Anne. I'll have to check that out. All right. Thanks, folks. Reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to connect.
All right. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
All right. Well, let's get on to the next segment. The swag. So we have a $50 gift certificate to the Tableau online store to give away today. And if the winner will email tableau.public.tug@gmail.com, I will get you set up with that gift certificate. I have loaded all the check-ins from today's meeting, so let's quickly spin and see who the winner is. Nashu Jain. So close for the other name I cannot pronounce, but always somebody so close. Well, Nashu, if you will email me at tableaupublictug@gmail.com, we will get you set up with your swag just in time for Tableau conference. All right, next up is Preethi and Prasann with the color of sleep. So take it away, Preethi and Prasann.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited for this segment, and I get to host a Tableau Visionary. So let me start by congratulating you, Prasann, for one more term as a Tableau Visionary. As you all might know, Prasann Prem is a Tableau Visionary and a social ambassador who loves to share his learnings and insights through his 17K plus strong community on LinkedIn. Phew, that's a big number, Prasann, there. He is a senior BI engineer at Emirates NBD and leads the design and development of financial dashboards. He has an immense love for mentoring, and his initiatives such as Tableau Buddy and Tableau Buddy Sandbox have been an integral part of his journey to succeed in his vision to help people with Tableau skills. Thank you, Prasann, for joining us today, and I'm really excited about the Viz, the color of sleep. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Preethi, for such a great introduction, and I'm quite excited to be here at Tableau Public Tug, talking about one of my recent Viz, that is the color of sleep. So I'll just share my screen. So before we talk about that, always think in a way that root is important, where it is coming from. So that's why the session is called Data Art plus AI, perfect combination to draw visual alphabets. Now, before this session, we had a great session by Ray, and you can definitely use most of the work shared at your workplace. I'm going to talk about, it's more like if you're interested in passion projects, like to be a bit artistic, try to do different things, then do it. So some of the hacks and how I actually did it. So Preethi has already introduced me. I don't want to go over and over this. So I'm a 3-time Tableau Visionary, 3-time social ambassador, founder of some of my initiatives, Tableau Buddy and Viz Diner, and also a mentor at DVS and Tug Leader for Analytics and Tableau Buddy user group. And one thing I would like to talk about is Tableau Buddy. This program is very close to my heart. It started in 2021. We started with one-to-one mentorships. Then we started Tableau Buddy Tug, which is actually for the ones who are first-time speakers. And this year we started Tableau Buddy Science, that is already ongoing and running. And it's an accelerator program where we already have these 18 learners. And our judges from the community helped us get those on this path. And we are going to talk about this at Tableau Conference as well. And that's a really big thing for me to talk about this and how actually this can be leveraged at workplaces. Okay, so let's talk about what is a visual alphabet. Because if we are going to talk about the color of sleep, this whole concept of visual alphabet is pretty much important. So visual alphabets might not be the same visual characters or structures we use like bars or lines or pie charts. These are mostly structures that carry the message in the form of visual structure. And also, one of the important idea behind this is to visually represent the idea and also evoke an emotion behind that particular structure. And some of the images that you see, these are not mine. These are from some of the great information designers in the world. One of them, the above one, is from Frederica Ferpagne. This one is from Valentina Di Filippo. They are kind of great at what they do, and always look up to their work, how they actually use visual alphabets to structure their story. And this was the basis for me to actually go around and build something that I can't be that much, I would say, rich with how they do it, but at least I tried something on my own. And this is what came up with my visualization, The Color of Sleep, where I tried to use a very unconventional way to represent the data, and this whole structure came up with. And if you see the focus over here, it's actually the visual alphabet that I defined using the different parameters and measures that I have, and we will talk about it later. But before that, let's go at the background, what was happening and how it all started. So I had this data from week 9, Make-Home Monday for the year 2020, and I wanted to do something analysis, but some of the common analysis that came to my mind was trend cousins, or maybe comparing between each other. So this data is generally about the sleep hours that students or kids that get from kindergarten to 12th grade. And apart from this, how much is actually recommended. So those were the main 2 data points. So what I did was I wanted to get a add on some of the observation or help from ChatGPT. So I just went to ChatGPT and I asked it, hey, this is the list of, because it was a small data set, I just asked ChatGPT that this is the list of, this is the context, and these are the points. Can you please share some of the analysis I can do using these points and this particular context? And ChatGPT actually gave me some of the ones that are pretty common, that comparison of sleep deficit by grade, trend analysis of actual sleep average versus grade, maybe correlation between grade and sleep deficit. And there are more, but what caught my eye was something that I found over here. Percentage sleep fulfillment. Now, in general, I'll be honest, I wouldn't have thought about it. That, okay, sleep fulfillment, that can be actually the ratio of sleep hours averaged by sleep hours needed, can be actually taken as sleep fulfillment. And there was one more, sleep deficit. 2 points really stuck to me, and me being a very optimistic person, I like to look at things in a very positive way. So I went on this with this particular point, sleep fulfillment, and then I went back. I just thought about it. What would be the message that I want to give it to anyone who is going through my viz? So now what I did, what came to my mind was, the better the sleep, better the child blooms, because sleep is important in our lives. Well, my sleep as well, but that's fine. That's another story. But this was the main message I wanted to come up with for my audience. And using this, what I wanted to represent these kids were using nature, actually. And if we talk about bloom as a word, it is somewhat related to leaves and flowers. And also I have some more context over here, some of the visualization by the great information designers I mentioned. And then I went ahead with something I always do, start with a sketch. Now I had this context in mind of sleep fulfillment. I knew what I want the message, and I always start with sketching. I have a notebook that I always use, and I started with something like this. So I started with drawing some of the curves, and I wanted to see, okay, these are leaves, how these both sleep hours, different categories can be used. And then at the bottom can be the sleep fulfillment that can act as a flower. That was the whole idea behind this. But now, after having drawn all over this, I was literally concerned that I really don't know how to draw curves altogether, or how can I achieve this. This was a major problem or blocker for me. Now, I went through some of the websites to find that optimum equation, but I wasn't getting it. And I was literally, maybe I had to throw away this idea, start with something else. But then I again went to ChatGPT. So I did some more analysis with ChatGPT to find out that optimum curve. So now come over here. Now this is the chart that I did. So I went on to ChatGPT and just asked it right away. Can you tell me a mathematical equation to draw a leaf stem? Now it gave me some of, if I can show you, it gave me parametric equations. It wasn't making sense overall. Like, what should I do? And then I asked it, okay, please plot it for me. So it got me something like this. Now I wasn't sure like how will it help me, because I wanted something of a curved line with a curvature, and I use it, but this was not something I wanted. I again went ahead, asked it, can you plot two leaf stems for me that are originating from 0 and both have a bit of different curvature so that they can be differentiated altogether? Again, I got something which didn't make any sense to me. I was like, okay, now what I should do? Now, actually told it, I became a bit specific. I just told it, I have coordinates of the line. Okay, so tell me what do I need to do to draw a curved line? Simple enough. Then actually it gave me something that made sense. It gave me examples like quadratic Bezier curve, cubic Bezier curve. Now, again, if I look at this equation, this was terrifying. I didn't know what to do with this. But then I asked it, okay, I have some points. Can you just give me something that can have that feel of stem of a leaf and also for me? It gave me something like this. Now, this was something that actually it wasn't the actual thing that I wanted, but at least I got two lines, but I wanted to have some curvature. So I asked it, can you give them a more curved look? So actually then it gave me further, one of the most important information was that there's something known as, in these curves, control points. Now you can use these control points to actually create a more dramatic curve. And that was where I understood, okay, let me try this. Let me try this in Tableau and see how I can actually use the particular quadratic Bezier curve to my advantage. So now we have the context, and I'll go back here. So the next thing was, this was the equation I had, and this was the curve. Few of the things that were important was the P0 is the 0 point from where I want the graph to start. P1 is my control point and P2 is my endpoint. And this T, it actually varies between 0 and 1. It's something we always do when we are densifying data. So these points need to be between 0 and 1. Because whenever we are plotting a chart for an equation, we need some arbitrary values so that we can trace it all down. Now, I wanted to convert this in more in the Tableau format so that I can write the relations. So what I did was, now the first thing was, because I had this sketch, I first defined my visual alphabet in more mathematical, with more mathematical context. So I wanted these two curves. I wanted the first curve to be the sleep hours needed. I wanted the second curve to be average sleep hours, that is the optimum, that is the sleep hours by the students, and this one is the optimum one. This is my sleep fulfillment. And on the x-axis, I wanted the first one to have some percent value, so that it should be not just, it shouldn't be sticking, it should have some space. And then I want these lines to be a bit apart using sleep deficit to create the story. That, okay, how much further they are, that is the sleep depth actually. And then on the y-axis, these are the values I was using for their sleep hours itself. So using these, now in Tableau, if we want to draw anything, Tableau is nothing but a Cartesian coordinate. So it's a Cartesian plane with x and y coordinates, and we can use it in our way to use this. So I use this calculation to create my own two calculations. One was curve x. Now this part was t, we can just think of this is kind of constant point. The control point is important because I want the control points to be different for both of these curves. So the control point will be but it can be an arbitrary value. Now the endpoint in here will be what we just talked about. For sleep hours needed, it will be constant. For average sleep hours, it will be constant plus sleep deficit. And for the curve Y, this again, the part is again being repeated. We have the control point, and then we have the sleep hours at the end. So I finally transformed this particular mathematical equation, wasn't making any sense, to at least somewhat that, okay, well, in this with control points, this will be my endpoint, will be my sleep hours. It maybe I got you, Preeti, because it's the same with me when I look at all those blogs from, let's say, CJ, everyone. Sometimes it doesn't even, I'm spaced out. But at least this was the way I was able to understand, okay, these are the parameters I can control and have something around it, maybe build something. So let's try it out. So let's see. So now I'll just take you through the simple data set, and then I'll show you how I built it. So let's, I think we can now minimize this. Yeah. And we can have this over here. So if I show you the data set, it's simple enough. It was great. It was hours needed and hours average. Now sleep was nothing but the difference between these two. So I calculated it in the spreadsheet itself. Then I calculated my sleep fulfillment and sleep fulfillment percentage. These all things, I thought maybe let's do it because it's simple enough. I can just do it over here. I can have it. Now, the second thing is the t values, and it has to be between 0 and 1. While I was doing the visualization, I ended up doing this whole t values more than 500, but that's not needed. So I created another set of points. It varies from 0 to 1, and they are equally spaced out, I think, by a factor of 0.02. And these are like 51 points. I think at least you need, for data densification, you need somewhat like 50 points. But that's my hypothesis there. So now going to Tableau, how did we do it? Okay, where's my Tableau? It closed out, but that's fine. Just going to open my color sleep viz now. So now let me take you through, and I wanted to do some table calculations so that I build it in one sheet, but I just forcefully did. So now structure. Now I'll just show you first calculations, and then I'll show you how using these equations, it is pretty simple enough. Now this is the equation. This is the minus t. Our t is the point that we are doing. But before that, I think it's pretty much important to show you what I did with the source. Now, this is my data source. And if you see over here, we have taken this sleep hours data set. I'm going to remove this one. I'll just remove this. And this t values data set, I'll just join it. And I'll do a full outer join using one as, so that I can just map all my values to all the values in my other data set, and it's there. Now, one of the next thing what I did was that I actually took this two different fields and pivoted it. Now I have the sleep hours category in one field and sleep hour use in one, because it was needed to build that in one view. Now, coming back over here to the equation. So the curve x1, these are the t points that we are getting from the scaffolding or the densification data set. And this is the point where we have this control point. Now, since I wanted these two lines to have different curvatures, I created two parameters, control point 1 and 2. And I just had this if and else, that if my sleep hours category is hours needed, then pick up this one. If my sleep hours category is this one, then pick up this one. And then square of t again, and then endpoint. And endpoint is, again, the same calculation that we did. So if sleep hours needed, then I need to have a constant that is again a parameter, and then sleep hours categories hours averaged, that is the optimum one, the second line. Then I need to have constant plus sleep deficit. The sleep deficit value is something we already calculated in the spreadsheet. Okay, so before I build it live, I'll just show you what happens when you actually play with control points. You can actually make this concave or convex. Pretty much, I won't say it came at once, but it was hit and trial, and I came with the optimum value so that I can have that curvature I wanted, because I wanted both of them to have somewhat a different curvature, and both should be in a way that they are kind of connecting at the top, and that's what I wanted to show through this. So let's say if I change this, we will see how actually it changes the curvature. It's actually becoming a more concave. And if I change this to, let's say, 3, you will also see what is actually. Maybe change this one to 5. See, so actually with the line and these control points, we can actually change the curvature in the way we wanted. So this was a good knowledge that I gained from ChatGPT, that what it actually means. And now to build it, it was kind of simple. I'll just go back to whatever my selections were. I think this was the one. Okay. Now to build this, let's open a new sheet. I'll take my curvature curve X1, put it over here, do the drop feed, select X1, put my curve Y1 over here. Now I get all the points. Before I do that, let me change this to line. This is stilly. I'll put just a filter to show you one. So now I have this. And now, because I want these two lines to be different, I'll take my sleep category on the color, and boom, I have this structure. It's not actually the way I want. It's still there. There's something funny happening, but it will get removed. Now, the second part is the sleep fulfillment point, or the flower at the bottom. Now, I'm going to take this, show you this calculation. It is nothing saying that if, because I want to have a point over here, if my curve X1 is 0 and Y1, then give me 0. That's it. They put it over here. And then I'm going to do dual axis. And also, now I just need to remove measure name. I don't want it. And I'm going to do a synchronized axis. Now this point is here. Let's change this to circle. Now, the last thing I would like to do is my size. So size is, sorry. So let's see what size is. So it's again, if my curve X1 is 0, Y1 is 0, and T is also 0, because these all points are actually different T values. So I want this at this place. So I just hard coded that wherever T is equals to 0, then only take the sleep fulfillment percentage. Now I'm going to put this over size. Now we have the size in place, and it's pretty much nicely taking the part. And then one of the part is color, because I wanted some categories to actually have a difference to. And I just got, this is some if and else equation to show. Yeah. And I'm going to put this on the color. Now I have this color as well. Now the last thing is, now it has this line, and size is also kind of looking good and everything. Further, these are tweakings that I did, a bit of opacity reduction. Now the last thing was, I wanted something to pop up, because then it's just a line. I wanted to look at like a flower or petal. That was the whole idea, to have this visual alphabet look like that. It's not just lines, but it is representing something. So it's something I was thinking, because now I can't do any dual axis, and I didn't know what I can do with it. So I wrote a simple calculation. I just said that wherever it is T is equals to 1, because the top point is going to be certainly 1 value. So wherever it is T is equals to 1, just take the sleep hours value, else just take 1. Nothing more. And now if I'm going to my curve X1, this line, I'm going to put this over size, I'll have these points. Now the last thing, since more over here, I can put the grade, and we can actually do it a table calculation in single sheet, but I didn't do it. So I actually create multiple sheets, and with this, that's done. This is what we built actually over here. Now this part is actually interesting because talk about golden ratio. So this was my hero of the story. This is my visual aspect. I'm the legend, but I also wanted to give more context to the. So I created, just using buckets, I created a simple. What should I call it? It's again a legend in itself using Gantz. A funny thing with Gantt, you just want to size it, put a Gantt, put a size of 0, it will just fill up. That I always use much. And then this was the whole legend to show now what is happening with each of these different categories. How many grades are there? It actually gives you the full story. This particular, how it has been increasing. And if you see here over here, these differences, they just start getting bigger. We don't get sleep because we have so much. Our mind is school, exams, 10th grade, 12th grade. See how it is just getting apart, and the sleep fulfillment ratio is actually becoming smaller and smaller. You just highlight over here, see what all the categories are here, a bit of highlight simple function. So this was the whole idea, build this, and how the process started and how it ended. I hope I covered most of the points, and it helped you to understand something. The whole intent of the session was to, even if you don't know mathematics, you can do it, because I did it. I was pretty much, I didn't know how to do it, but I figured it out through ChatGPT. I think that's the best friend we've got right now.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you, Prasann. This was such a great talk. Really appreciate it. And I do want to give you a shout out. I really appreciate when people invest time in naming their calculations and having a naming convention. As you were showing your desktop, I was like, there's a naming convention process that Prasann follows. It is helpful, right? When somebody is going to reverse engineer your dashboard, it would be really helpful
Right.
for them. Uh, this was a great session. Thank you all. I do have a couple of questions, and just so you know, we all love the sketching idea. I think we do have few random
Thank you.
people like me who sketch in their heads and just go and play in Tableau dashboard. But there are people who use Glassboard. Few folks do use pen to the paper and stuff. Priyanka's question to you is, how do you typically choose the color palette for your viz?
Okay, so I was really bad at colors, I would tell you. But now these days, what I do is, I generally, there's a trick to creating these best pastel color palettes, because these are not too much on our eyes, but it's not like I'm going coolers or different places. I'm generally going with the color blind palette that tab by default, and I just reduce its opacity. Now, once you reduce the opacity, I have felt that it actually gives you that warmth that we want. So that's how I generally use it. And particularly some of the colors I've been reusing throughout my visits. So that's how I generally do it. Or take inspirations from some of the visualizations I'm looking up to, and some of the colors that I really think this is something I want. It's more of a hidden trial process. I don't have a system.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that is a great system, right? Like you get inspired by something you enjoy. And I recently figured that I like color purple this year for some reason. So anything purple oriented catches my eye. So that is where I am. But Priyanka also has one important question, which is, with so many initiatives, when do you sleep, Prasann? And we've said you don't sleep, you just don't. You're
Some of the people at my first conference like told me that, oh, you are human. We thought you are not. But I try to find it. And now because when I started, it was a lot of things I was doing. Now I have actually a bit like I've reduced my palette altogether, and also with all the collaboration and help from the community, it makes it worthwhile. Because there is a phrase, right? If you want to go far, just go with more and more people. Like that's the best thing. And with the community, I think that's my backbone. All of
Yeah.
you, like meeting you and everyone, it's the best thing that happened to me in my life, to be honest.
No,
Before coming to
really
Tableau,
appreciate.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. And Shivani, yes, Math plus AI builds very lit whizzes. That is all we got. Thank you, Prasann, for taking time. Thank you to the rest of the presenters too. Eric, what is the process if somebody wants to learn about what was the backend for their favorite viz of the day? How can they let us know?
Oh, thanks. I will get to that. But Prasann first. Sorry about that. There's a alert going on campus that my phone keeps going off. I wouldn't let your girlfriend hear that this is the best thing in your life. She might have other ideas about that, but let's go.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I had a blast.
Well, thank you. We are grateful for you being here. Next month will be our last hug before TC25. Joining us will be Will Sutton, Tableau Visionary and Iron Viz winner. He will present his The Age of Olympians viz. And Miles Stevenson from the Information Lab will be presenting his beautiful map viz, The Power of Passports. So I hope you're getting your passports ready to visit everyone in the community at TC25. Look for myself, Preethi, Priyanka, Ant, and Agata in the Data Village and say hello if you see us. Oh, right before this meeting started, our community spotlight author next month will be none other than Steve Wexler. So we have a Hall of Fame visionary who's going to give us a perspective on the early days of Tableau Public and Tableau Conference. So I'm really looking forward to that one. But to answer your question, Preethi, if you want your own viz of the day, build a viz that is either timely or topical, highlights a new Tableau feature, spotlights the diverse Tableau community, includes a novel chart type or Tableau trick, communicates a key insight or story, and most important of all, make it visually stunning. If you create a viz like that and publish it to Tableau Public, we hope to have you on one of the future versions of the Tableau Public Tug. Thanks for everyone joining us today, and we hope to see you next month. So please tell your friends of the Data Fam to join us on March 20th at noon Eastern Time.